smarts and my...
He told me enough.
No, I.
Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new epic rant. And this epic rant is gonna be for a new film that came out this weekend on Canada Day weekend. It ended the June releases. This was not a good way to end June. It's for yet another nostalgia-made sequel by Lucasfilm, Disney themselves, and that's going to be for none other than this year's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, or this could have many titles besides Dial of Destiny. The Dire of Disney, the Diarrhea of Lucasfilm, the Shit-Filled Toilet of Destiny, the Piss-Filled Water of Destiny, or Indiana Jones destined to kill this franchise, hopefully for good. So what's the plot is? Well, you can all somehow experience the return of legendary hero Indiana Jones in this unneeded fifth installment of a good swashbuckling series of films. He finds himself in a new era, and he's approaching retirement. So when he wrestles with fitting to a world that he seems to have outgrown him, as the tentacles of an all-too-familiar evil return in the form of an old rival, and he must don his hat and pick up his whip once more to make sure an ancient and powerful artifact doesn't fall into the wrong hands. Yeah. So how was this made? Well, we all know in 1979, Lucas and Spielberg made a deal with Paramount for 5 movies of Indiana Jones. In April 2008, Ford said he would return as Indiana for a 5th film if it does not take another 20 years to develop, referring to the long development of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which was released a month after he said that. And that film introduced the character Matt Williams, Indy's son. And producer Lucas suggested an idea to make Williams the lead character in a 5th film, but decided against this. Lucas said that Ford's age would not be an issue with making another film. Because he said it was not like he was an old man, he was incredibly agile. And he looks way better than he did 20 years ago. Okay. Nothing wrong with that, but whatever. Then Lucas began researching potential plot devices for another film in 2008, and said that Spielberg was open to directing it, as he had done the previous films. Explaining the process for each film, Ford said they'd come to see basic agreement, and then George goes away for a long time and works on it. Then Steven and him and Lucas would get into some embryonic form, and then they'd start working with George, and at some point down the line it's ready and they do it. Lucas stressed the importance of having a MacGuffin that is supernatural but still grounded in reality with an archaeological or historical background. And they said that they couldn't just make something up. It was like a time machine. Or speaking about the precious sum of the franchise's future, Lucas said they'd still had issues about the direction they'd like to take, and then, or he was in the future, Steven was in the past. He would be trying to drag it back the way they were. He was trying to push in a whole different place, so they had sort of a tension. Then in later 2008, Ford said the Lucas concept for a 5th one was crazy but great. Then in November 2010, he said Lucas was still working on the project. July 2012, producer Frank Marshall said the project had no writer and said about its progress. They didn't know if it was not happening, but it was not up and running around the time. But then, of course, in October 2012, the Walt Disney acquisition of Lucasfilm happened, and it gave Disney ownership of the rights to the intellectual property. Then in December 2013, the Walt Disney Studios purchased the distribution and marketing rights for future films from Paramount, with the largest studio retaining the distribution rights in the first 4 films and receiving financial participation for additional films as well as the in association with credits. That's the 2012 acquisition. Lucas passed Indiana Jones 5 to new Lucasfilm president, a traitor woman we don't speak of, Kathleen Kennedy. Lucasfilm planned to focus on the Star Wars franchise before working on a 5th Indiana Jones film. But that did not happen. Because in May 2015, Kennedy confirmed that Lucasfilm would make another Indiana Jones film. Which was a stupid idea, because Kingdom of Crystal Skull ended positively for Indiana Jones with his marriage to Marion Ravenwood, so it should have been cancelled. But Ford did not necessarily view the film as a definitive ending for Jones, which he wanted to make one more film that would expand the character and conclude his journey. Ford felt that Crystal Skull ended in a kind of suspended animation. No, it ended the series perfectly. There was not a real strong feeling of the conclusion or the closure that he had always hoped for. Of course there was. Indy got married, the end. According to Kennedy, they had felt that they had concluded the series with one more movie. Given the fact that Harrison was excited to try to do another one, they should obviously do it. And Kennedy, Spielberg, and Ford discussed a couple of story ideas by the end of 2015. But guess what, guys? Spielberg did not come back. He got replaced by the director of Logan, Steven Spielberg. No, he got replaced by the director of Logan, James Mangold. Sorry, I can't focus on this, because I'm so pissed off. Sorry, I can't get things right. So after the film was shot and marketed, Dial of Destiny premiered at the Cannes Film Festival on May 18th, 2013, and got released yesterday on June 30th, 2023. This was filmed Saturday, guys. I know it was 2 days after June 30th, but this was filmed on Saturday. The film has received mixed reviews from critics. They praised the cast performances, set designs, visuals, direction, soundtrack, and prologue, but they considered it inferior to previous installments. Well, there's one thing we agree on. As for my reaction, well, you should all know, I'm a fan of Indiana Jones. I have this Indy hat, and I have all 4 of the movies in this box set. My 2 favorites are... Hold on a second to get these out. Alright, my 2 favorites. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Spielberg's best movie. Last Crusade, the best of the sequels, and to me, what should have been the send-off of Indiana Jones. Okay, now let's put these back and get... Okay, there we go. There. Temple of Doom, I think, is underrated. And while the last one we saw before this new one came out, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, is unnecessary, but I don't think it's as terrible as people claim it to be. They're all like, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is one of the worst sequels ever made. This movie destroyed Indiana Jones. This film was a disgrace. One of the worst movies I've ever watched in my life. You really gonna go that far? It wasn't needed, but dear God, you guys seriously need to stop calling this one of the worst things you've ever witnessed. They're all acting like the 4th one literally just... These people act like the 4th one came to the Crystal Skull. They act like as if that movie's a murderer. Even South Park went mean-spirited in its joke. We're saying Spielberg and Lucas raped Indiana Jones. No, they didn't. That's like comparing directors to a terrorist. However, and I think, if you guys think Crystal Skull's bad, now we have an even more unwarranted 5th entry that nobody asked for. 2023 has had some surprises. I liked most of the January films released this year, which is the shock. I ended up surprisingly really loving Illumination's Super Mario Bros. Movie. So that's coming from someone who's not a big fan of Illumination, and didn't really have much hope for the Mario movie. Now, I did turn out to be wrong about the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And there has been some recent legacy sequels that have come out over time I have shockingly ended up liking. I liked Top Gun Maverick. I liked Blade Runner 2049. I liked Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Okay? Those are, want to know why? Because those are legacy sequels that don't fuck over characters and don't rely on nostalgia just to make money. Those three relied on story. They actually treated the original leads with respect. Okay? When it comes to this movie, how is it? Well, predictably, this movie sucked balls. It was a piece of shit. It deserves a kick in the ass and a stomp in the mouth. It's official. Raiders, Temple, and Crusade is where it's at. They've hardly got it right since, but now, before this movie came out, I originally only wanted to view it as just those three. But now with this movie out, I would rather watch King of the Crystal Skull 500 times a week over this damn movie any day. This movie was just boring. There's no memorable characters. There's no special moments. There's no fun action. The plot was not even engaging. And the magic part of the film was just downright draft. Watching this film was literally just emotionally akin to identifying this loved one after a horrible car crash. You recognize, or just a typical accident in general. You could recognize them, like the shaved clothes, driver's license, but everything else is just a bloody, mutilated mess. And then you're trying to shoehorn two different movies that hate themselves and each other into a single film. This is the predictable result. This should not even be called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I already mentioned the other titles, but you want to know another title that would work? The Adventures of the Annoying, Unlikable, Stupid as Hell Goddaughter Helena, and the Death of this Franchise. Featuring an 80-year-old Indiana Jones, this unrecognizable version of himself, who just comes off as this unwelcome part of his own movie. The only time he ever is a star is the first 15 minutes. Because most of this movie, this annoying goddaughter is the star of the film. She also shares some screen time with this unlikable, cheap version of Short Round. I forget his name, guys. I don't care his name is. He's just this annoying kid, unlikable brat that you don't enjoy watching. You don't care about him at all. He's basically this crappy version of Short Round. Just take out any, except Short Round was enjoyable. This doesn't have any of the good qualities Short Round has. She's often sharing the screen with her father's friend, Dr. Jones. That's the only reason she's his goddaughter, is because her father is friends with Indiana Jones. And the rest of this cast is just awful in this movie. This is supposed to be a Raiders film. We gotta have Ford on board, but he really is just way too old now for this kind of movie. There's no engaging action. It's an octogenarian doing the things he does in this film just laughable. We get like Toby Jones as Indy's sidekick in the overly long prologue. And most of his screen time, his character just grinds my ears in. And you have Mads Mikkelsen as the villain. Great casting for a villain right there. And you want to know the worst parts? Yeah, the worst part is obviously Helena, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who was apparently an actress I've actually already hated. I never saw much material about her, but from what I've learned, she likes to put woke stuff in anything she does. And that's not a shock here because her character acts woke in this movie. And she has this annoying ripoff of Short Round by her side, who just comes off as an asshole. Even trash talk. He even secretly thinks Indiana Jones shouldn't be with them at times. So yeah. So basically, we almost have another Dewey from Scream 5 in those moments. If you guys want to complain about William Short Round being irritating, I dare you to watch these two. These two are just insufferable to a whole new level. They make William Short Round actually enjoyable. Short Round was actually enjoyable. Willie improved near the end of Temple of Doom. Those were the differences. Helena barely improves, and her stupid sidekick Shirley as shit doesn't improve at all. And somehow he even knows how to fly a plane near the end of the film. So yeah, Lucasfilm strikes again. It's the last Jedi of Indiana Jones. It's just a soulless corporate-made product. It's an imitation of an imitation. You can tell the script is missing George and Stephen's influence because they're not attached to this project. The action feels just way too modern day, not practical at all like the previous Indiana Jones films. In fact, there's barely any fucking action in this movie. Nothing epic even happens. May not have been a big fan of Crystal Skull, but here's the thing though. Crystal Skull did things. It was about Indiana Jones. It treated him with respect. It didn't make him a weak loser. He was still his actual self in the first 3 movies. And guess what, guys? It gave him a happy ending, and it gave him a family in the very end of the movie. Him and Mary got married. He takes the hat away from Mutt before he could don it because he's like, I'm Indiana Jones, no one else is. He makes it clear that only he's allowed to be Indiana Jones, and they walk out of the church, the credits roll. The end. No! Not anymore. Because in this movie, you want to know what his reward is? Those are both stripped from him. We get now another just broken, disenfranchised hero who, guess what, guys? Him and Marion are divorced, and his son is Alien 3'd. Completely. Yeah, so we get another Alien, because of course we need to have another fucking Alien 3 to a character. That's 2 Alien 3s pulled off this year. 2. First churn from John Ford gets Alien 3'd, and now Mutt Williams gets Alien 3'd. May not have been too big of a fan of Mutt, but Mutt wasn't anything like the lady was in this movie. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character in this movie. Because now, Indiana Jones in this one, he's just another broken, disenfranchised hero who's just here to get shown up by his new female counterpart at every turn. Sound familiar to another trilogy by Lucasfilm? And that's Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She just kills this every movie, ruins every single part of this movie with every scene she's in. She's just constantly unlikable, talks shit to Indiana Jones, takes center stage in the 3rd act, while Indy just sits in the sidelines with a gunshot wound and is useless. Speaking of that, when it comes to the 3rd act of this movie, the movie's a freaking mess. The reveal of the true purpose of the doll is stupid and ridiculous. It feels too out there even for an Indiana Jones movie. And Indy makes a choice near the end that's the equivalent of Luke throwing the lightsaber over his shoulder like it was a fucking joke. Indiana Jones is not supposed to give up. Like say, hey. Because yeah, look, watch this movie. He didn't give up in this. He didn't defeat the Nazis, but he sure shit didn't give up in this and getting the Ark back. When you watch this movie, he sure shit didn't give up when Maul Ram was about to get the stones. And he saved the children, got the stones back, learned that fame's not always worth it. Raiders of the Lost Ark, he reconciled with Marion. They're gonna rekindle their romantic relationship. They go out for a drink. He didn't get the Ark. Sure, like he didn't really get the Ark. He didn't really get the Ark back the way he wanted, but he got something better. He became friends with Marion again. And they're likely going to rekindle romance, and they go out to have a drink. They get a proper date this time. This movie. This is the best ending for Indiana Jones here. He doesn't give up when the Nazis are about to get the Grail. Or doesn't give up when his end nemesis chose poorly. He finds the Grail, realizes he chose wisely, brings it back to his dad, saves his dad before he could die with the Grail. He loses but of course, unfortunately, the love interest, who's a traitor, causes them to lose the Grail. But his dad no longer obsessed over the Grail. His dad realized getting his son back was the Holy Grail, the true Holy Grail he was supposed to find. Same goes for Indiana Jones here. They reconciled. They can finally have a proper dad and son relationship. They ride off into the sunset with Sala and Marcus. Even in this movie, too. He didn't give up here. Sure, he wasn't the same age he was in the first 3 movies, but he never gave up here. Alright? He wasn't the one that got the skull back. The villains were the ones who got the skull back together. But guess what, guys? He's reconciled with Mary for good this time. Married her, gained a son out of it, got reinstated as dean in his school. So those are all better third acts here. What was the point of this third act? He just gives up and decides to just stay in the whole Roman timeline and bleed to death or die? But I'll get to that stuff later. But even with all the odds against him, he never gives up. He never gave up in any of the first 4 movies. Ford gave fine. Harrison Ford still did fine for what he was given. And Matt Mikkelsen is fine, but they don't even save the movie at all. And there's not the inconsiderable absence of Spielberg behind the camera. Like, he might have... Regardless, people could say he messed up with the last indie film. But he still... People could say all they want. I don't think he did. He still had the original trilogy under his belt. James Mangold, in their hand, he deserves no such goodwill. And he's taken a much-loved character. He's put him in some of the most uninspired action scenes imaginable. People could say what they want about nuking the fridge, or not swimming with the apes. But here's the thing, though. Regardless of their hated scenes, they're talked about and remembered to this day. Dial of Destiny is just one forgettable set piece after another, directed with zero flair and some sloppy editing that does not help. And then you have this... And what's worse, guys, James Mangold is now a director that's joined the list of directors who's lost my respect. Because when he was promoting this movie, people on Twitter were obviously expressing how they were not excited for this. They knew this was going to fail. And of course, James Mangold was already beginning to go down that road. It's like, Indiana's not going to die. Get off my back. I want all of you off my fucking back. On Twitter to them. Pretty much acting as if they were all stupid. But they're, of course, bashing your movie. No, James Mangold, the reason they're bashing your movie is because it's an unneeded sequel that nobody wants. And what's worse, guys, he shit-talked John Williams, and then even shit-talked Harrison Ford. Then why did you direct this movie in the fucking first place? If you're gonna shit-talk Ford, and you're gonna shit-talk John Williams. So congrats, James Mangold. You've joined the dark side. How convenient. The director of Logan has officially now joined the dark path. Great. Whenever I rewatch Logan or Walk the Line or Ford v Ferrari, it's going to be hard to remember the guy who directed them as a prick. But now we get on to the script of this movie. Indiana does time travel, and it's every bit as stupid as Indiana Jones meeting aliens. People could say meeting aliens is stupid, but the thing is, though, Spielberg and Lucas wanted the film to be set in the B-movie era, like a B-movie sci-fi film from the 50s. Here, there was a reason they kind of had to go that route. The 30s and artifacts were over, it was time for a new era. Here, like, time travel is actually a really stupid idea for a franchise like this. The Crystal Skull was at least an artifact. This is just incredibly dull and tedious. None of the sense of wonder and magic that one expects in these movies. Like, I just got back from seeing the movie, and I can hardly recall certain scenes because it's that boring and forgettable. It's so unremarkable. We still get the plenty predictable nostalgia bait, or predictable fan service, because that only serves to remind the viewer of how much better the original films were. To make matters worse, the whole mess is just dragged out to 2 hours and 34 minutes. Oh my god. When you watch all 4 of these movies, they're like just about 2 hours max. 2 hours, they're 120-minute mark max. And that's long enough. I don't need to watch a 154-minute Indiana Jones movie. and I especially don't need to watch a 154-minute version of Return of the Jedi. Like the sequel trashology thought I clearly needed to do. Or wanted to watch a 3-hour version of Empire Strikes Back. Or maybe even a 3-hour version of Revenge of the Sith. They probably would be that runtime if they were released today. Like, I still accept Last Crusade as the true send-off to Indiana Jones because him riding off to the sunset was a perfectly satisfying trilogy. But now, like, I still like the end wedding scene of Marion, but I feel like the ending of Last Crusade was just the better send off. Him riding off into the sunset, reuniting with his dad was a perfect way to go out. They tried nothing new apart here, from the ludicrous wonder to nonsensical fantasy. And I feel bad for Harrison Ford because he looks like he seriously wanted to come back and kick some ass in this movie, but there's obviously shackles by Disney put onto him because of some truly awful script writing. So yeah, because of this movie, this was not the Indiana Jones we grew up with, knew and loved. He suffered from extremely bad sorry old man syndrome, where he didn't want to do any real adventuring, was never excited to do so, just grumpy and old. The villain is as one-dimensional as you could get, because he's just a Nazi who simply just wants to use his doll to go back in time and restart the Third Reich. And that's his entire character. No complexity, no layers, nothing interesting about him. He's just a psychopath placed in East War for him to stop, and that was it. The only time this feels like an Indiana Jones adventure is the first 20 minutes, with CGI and fan service, of course. Yeah, that's kind of how you... Yeah, it's how you start the movie. The start of the movie is way more Indiana Jones than the rest of the movie is. Because then we cut to old Indiana Jones. We meet insufferable Helena Shaw, her stupid short round ripoff I don't want to name, who's just an unlikable brat. Who actually knows, like, in this Helena character, I was like, she knows everything, she can do anything, talks Indy down, talks shit to Indy over and over and over and over and over and over fucking again. Takes over the action scenes while our main hero's on the sidelines. Because that's every sequel today. We have some unlikable Mary Sue take over, toss the legacy character aside, kill his ass off, to make room for this new Mary Sue no one is interested in. Whenever they revive anything, it's just done to kill off a legacy character. But play the march, play the theme song for John Williams, and it will be alright. Like, how does this movie begin? Well, the first 20 minutes, we start off in 1944, during the Allied European World War II. Indiana Jones and his colleague Basil Shaw, who is this fellow archaeologist from Oxford, they get captured by Nazis attempting to relieve the Lance of Longinus, and then Archaeologist Jurgen Voller informed his superiors that he had found Archimedes' dial, which was literally invented by the Saracen mathematician Archimedes, capable of locating fissures in time. But of course, we all know Jones obviously escapes, boards a train of looted antiques, where he rescues Shaw. And then determining the spear is a fake and acquiring the dial, he and Shaw escape the train before it derails and pass over a bridge, destroying the Allied bombers. So, there's one moment right there where you actually feel like you're watching Indiana Jones. I don't know why this whole movie could have been set in 1944. The DA Indiana Jones is not even that great. Even the CGI in King of the Crystal Skull felt better than this. Honestly. But I would have rather this movie took place in 1944 and had been a prequel to King of the Crystal Skull. Then I would probably live with it. Had it just been about these two, him and Toby Jones, that would have been way better. I would have tolerated that a little more. That's not what we got. Because now we cut to August 1969, we find out Jones is separated from Marion Ravenwood because their son Mutt Williams died in the Vietnam War. So yeah, we have another fucking Alien 3 crap, because everything needs to be Alien 3 nowadays. Sure, I'm not really a fan of the Mutt character, but dear God, I really don't think he deserves to have the Alien 3 treatment at all. Just because and it's all because the fan base hated him. And now, after this Phoebe character, I would rather watch Mutt over Helena. Now, I think Helena's much worse. And now he's being pushed into retirement at Hunter College all over again. Like, remember the ending of 4 of him getting reinstated as dean? Like, what happened to his other school? Where the hell's his other school at? We never find out his other school, because this school looks so different. And literally, none of the students in his class just look so interested. They're all just bored, dozing off. Now, here, like, but yeah, him getting reinstated as dean's gonna mean nothing, because he's gonna get retired again anyways. He then gets approached by a bar by Helena Shaw, who herself is an archaeology student somehow and a treasure hunter somehow, and Jones informed her the doll split into 2 pieces, and her now deceased father was driven to near insanity while trying to unlock its secrets. They retrieve the first piece of the doll from the college storeroom, and they're even attacked by henchmen sent by Voller, who literally works for NASA under a new identity and was assisted by a CIA group led by A.J. Mason. Knowing Voller's been her after, Helena betrays Indiana's ass and escapes with the dial. It's her true intention because she wants to sell valuable treasures for money. Joan, literally flees into parade, causes many accidents, stupidly, that are literally, when they're celebrating the Apollo 11 astronauts, he basically wreaks havoc all over the parade, steals a horse, runs down a subway, almost gets himself freaking killed by a train, then escapes, but then of course he gets off the horse, escapes on the subway, and he seeks aid from his old friend Sala, who, guess what, guys? He's now, you want to know what happened to him after Last Crusade? He became a complete taxi driver that nobody recognizes. So yeah, instead of doing anything epic, he's now this immigrant cab driver. That's all Sala gets after the Last Crusade, just a fucking unrecognized or fucking acknowledged cab driver. This is a guy who deserved a better job, better ranking, better acknowledgement after being in 2 Indiana Jones adventures. That's just pathetic. And it isn't even, and really this isn't even a movie. It's a sequence of just boring overlong CG heavy fan service, nostalgic car chases, played with unnecessary characters you don't like, giving you plot twists for how much action is in display. There's almost no thrills here. And you want to know what's worse? Apparently, and one of the villain's henchmen, get this, guys. One of the villain's henchmen is all muscular, beefy. In fact, he looks like as if Biff from Back to the Future took a bunch of steroids. In fact, I'm surprised this guy didn't go calling Indiana Hell a butthead every time like Biff does with Biff does with Marty's dad. Like often Biff calls a lot of characters. I don't know why you just call him that. This guy looks like freaking Biff on steroids. If Biff probably took steroids, he'd probably look like this henchman guy. That the short round knockoff defeats by literally handcuffing him to a metal pole underwater when he gets captured because he walks off. This short round ripoff goes stealing kids' money, buying stupid ice cream cones with it because he just wants to sell the artifact for money. He doesn't want to listen to Indiana Jones' advice because he's such an arrogant brat and prick. He gets himself captured, and then of course the drowning scene, the escape scene I mentioned happens because the steroid on steroids Biff puts him in a truck and captures him. Then we all know the water scene happens. Yeah. None of the fun creativity of the original trilogy is present here, aside from the single mildly interesting tomb puzzle, and it's replaced by stupid winks and nods to old Indy, like, hey, did you know he doesn't like snakes? Did you know that, oh hey, remember the insects in Temple of Doom? Now, cause hey, yeah, we gotta have references from cause we gotta have such nostalgia references from the first 3 Indiana Jones movies. Because hey, nostalgia baiting, I gotta have the nostalgia, sweet nostalgia money in your fucking face. So tired of that shit. And the supporting actress's character is the worst part of this movie. She's not only annoying, she's borderline evil. She does whatever the fuck she wants in her own best interest, even getting others in grave danger in the process, berates Indy, treats Indiana Jones like shit, and brings on and on about how great she thinks she is and thinks she's all better than Indiana Jones. So fucking irritating. And their chemistry sucks. If you guys want to say that you guys thought Indiana and Mutt's chemistry sucked, watch this movie, and I dare you to ever try thinking that Indiana and Mutt's chemistry sucked after this. I even laughed at the part where she claims to be she's so beautiful, with a face like a shovel. Indiana Jones is a great character because he's interesting and had good supporting characters to play off of. Helena, on the other hand, does not. I can't help but even mention what an arrogant, cocky, undermining little madam she is in this flick. She just gives off too much of a modern woman vibe. The look at me, I'm smarter than some dumb old Indiana Jones. So yeah. People are like 2008, Mutt Williams is annoying and unlikable. Now, you can wait till you see this lady. When it comes to the two, I'd rather watch Mutt over this. You could literally call Phoebe the next Rose Tico of Indiana Jones. Or hey, you could even call her Ray Palpatine even. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that the action scenes are humor a lot of times. Well, I've already mentioned the action scenes are humor, but there's barely any fucking action in this movie, and there's also nothing fucking funny or epic in it. It's more dramatic and depressing. Literally. Then again, this is done by the guy who did Logan. But what? With Logan, though, the nihilistic tone was earned. It did not shit on the main lead like this movie did. But Mangold but now it's directed by a guy I hate, lost respect for, lashed out at fans, acted all tough and gangster on them on Twitter for criticizing this stupid unneeded movie, which they had every right to do because it's unneeded. They knew it would be shit, and it was still shit regardless. So yeah, with that, James Mangold is now the new Ruin Johnson, and he's joined Kathleen Kennedy on the dark side of directors. The way this movie ends is also shit, because Voller captures Jones, resembles the Dial, and reveals his plan to time travel back to 1939 and kill Hitler in the hopes of a better leader that will rise and take Germany to victory in the war. Helena sneaks aboard Voller's plane though before it takes off, while the short round knockoff pursues them in another plane that he steals and somehow knows how to fly, but he's accompanied by its sleeping pilot. But Voller fails to take Colonel Drift into consideration, and the fissure in time is said to lead them to 212 BC during the siege of Sicarius. So they still time travel anyway, but not to the destination they want to go to. Jones and Helena parachute from the plane as it is shot down by projectiles fired by the warring armies below, and as he prepares to kill Jones and Helena, Voller and his men die in an ensuing plane crash, and gravely injured, Jones begs Helena to leave him behind the past, allowing him to become a part of ancient history, but Helena refuses, because she fears the possibility of a catastrophic time paradox. And Archimedes himself arrives. He emerged from his workshop to investigate Voller's crashed plane, and Archimedes returns the version of the dial they bought from the future before Helena. Guess what, guys? So, you want to know what she does? She gets this fist, punches Indiana Jones in the fucking face, which knocks him out, and it returns him to 1969 aboard Teddy's plane. Yeah, so it all gets solved because she punches Indiana Jones in the fucking face. The fucking damn face. So this is perfect. A punch in the face is how you solve everything in this movie. Hey, now when you watch the other movies, why don't, with Temple of Doom, why don't you just kick him in the balls to defeat Maul Ram and make him fall off? Or in Raiders to kill the Nazis as well. Or in Last Crusade, just kick him in the face, kick him in the balls to save his dad with the Holy Grail. King of the Crystal Skull, do the same shit to get the skull back on the crystal's body. Why don't you just do that? Surprising to do that stuff. And then after that, Jones awakens in his apartment. He's reunited with Helena, Teddy's son, and his grandchildren, and as well as Marion, who reconciles with Jones. And the others leave for ice cream, and Jones and Mary reminisce about a past conversation before passionately kissing. So yeah, we once again end with yet another shitty fan service, trying to recreate a scene from the first movie, much like we had to make fan service for the other two Indiana Jones movies, much like the sequel Trashology did that to Star Wars. And now, I'm hearing so many people already reading a lot of reviews saying, oh, this was a great movie. This was so much better than King of the Crystal Skull. It was a phenomenal send-off. I almost cried watching this. And I even read this got a 5-minute standing ovation at the Cannes Film Festival. Why? Because of how shitty Kennedy and Mangold fucked over Spielberg and Lucas's franchise? Fucked over their creation? Created this goddaughter to Indiana Jones that was an unlikable, obnoxious, annoying piece of shit SJW that pretty much assaulted her godfather and punched him in the face? And treated him like shit? That's why? Hey, now, okay. Now whenever you rewatch these three movies, just remember, our new goddaughter assaulted this hero. In all three of these movies. Hey, whenever you rewatch 4, just remember, our new lady assaulted this hero. Because this movie decided to go woke. Oh, hey, when you ever rewatch these three movies, right here, this trilogy, this awesome trilogy, where he often learns morals in Temple of Doom and Crusade. Nah, he's gonna be grumpy, he's gonna become a loser, too unhappy about the new era, gets divorced, loses his son in a war, and forcibly retired, then gets punched in the faces and sent off. Oh, the happy ending in 4 where him and Marion get married and he takes the hat and he clarifies he's still Indiana Jones? No, that doesn't matter anymore. That's bullshit. So basically, this movie, James Mangold basically went to the bathroom, took a massive diarrhea shit on Spielberg and Lucas's franchise, got pissy with fans for hating it, and somehow there's still literally people that clap, cheer, and applaud him for doing that, for taking a shit on Spielberg's legacy. And they even clap and cheer that he was an asshole to Harrison Ford and John Williams. I don't get that shit at all. Apparently, the Cannes Film Festival must think him getting sucker punched in the face is more clap-worthy than him riding off into the sunset with his dad, or getting married to Marionette and being reinstated as dean of his school in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And why is this called Dial of Destiny? You want to know what this movie should have been called? The Last Chance of Lucasfilm. Yeah, this may as well be also called The Last Chance of Lucasfilm, and it fucking failed. Lucasfilm, Kathleen Mangold, you three just need to retire. Yeah, just go away, Kathleen. You can't write and produce worth of shit no more. You've lost your respect. I may seem a little harsh on this, guys, but sometimes harshness needs to be said. Lucasfilm needs to shut down too. Just don't do any more movies again. Don't revive any more franchises again. You guys can't make another good movie anymore. You guys are failures now. Force Awakens sucked. Last Jedi sucked. Solo sucked. Strange Magic sucked. Rise of Skywalker sucked. Mandalorian Season 3 sucked. And this movie sucked. Is there any good qualities about this movie? Okay, fine. At least Tim and Marion, I guess, do get back together in the end, and I'll give credit to this, at least they didn't kill off Indiana Jones. So there's just about those. If Indy had died in this movie, this would have gotten likely a -0 out of 10. So it's not going to get a -0 just for that reason alone. Other than those, this might have to be the worst sequel I've seen this year, and probably might end up being the worst movie I've seen this year. And I'm just going to pretend, I'm just going to watch these 4 movies, and I can pretend this Dial of Destiny crap just doesn't fucking exist. The wedding scene was now the true, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is now the true send-off to Indiana Jones. And I now would rather watch Skull millions of times over this movie now any day. So now I can fully accept it as 4 movies, and I can live with Crystal Skull's existence. In the end, The Dial of Destiny is a huge horseshit movie that should not have been seen by if you are an indie fan and only want to be pissed off and have their Last Jedi all over again. Anyways, that's it for my epic rant on Dial of Destiny. Wondering how I'm going to rate Dial of Destiny? Here's how I'm going to rank this shitty-ass movie. So overall, just go rewatch Crystal Skull now that this movie has claimed its ranking for worst Indiana Jones movie, and avoid the worst movie this summer and worst sequel of 2023. And if you're wondering how to rank the Dial of Destiny, I'm going to give the Dial of Destiny a definitive horseshit 2.5 out of 10. There we go. That pretty much wraps up this epic rant for the diarrhea of Lucasfilm. God, and that wraps up the Indiana Jones review series. So, yeah. Now, if you'll excuse me, guys, I'm going to go remind myself that Indiana Jones is now only 4 movies. Only 4. Right here. And I now better like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And I'd probably give it a much better score now. And maybe I wasn't, maybe we were all being a little harsh on it. So, what's other laughable? This somehow has this movie has a 6.9 out of 10. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a 6.1 out of 10. If you guys like this movie, each their own. I think it's a pile of shit, regardless. Each their own if you like it, but I thought it was shit. Okay? It's my honest opinion. It's called honesty. Some people are going to get all pissy and mad at me, think I'm being all childish for hating this movie, but I don't care. Till then, guys, that'll be it for this epic rant. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.